Welcome back to the Bluechip Breakdown, Vols fans. I'm your host, Bull. We got a few things to talk about this morning, but first, we're going to be talking about these clowns playing with Nico's name. Is it Dan, Danielle, Weitzel, Witzel, Rossi, Rose, Dellinger, whatever, Patty, Ford, Forday, however you say any of their names. Oh no, I got it. Larry, Curly, and Mo. Let me play this for those of y'all who have not seen it just yet.
Let's say there was a quarterback from California named Rico. We'll throw a couple more in there, right? Some guy named Rico is from California, 5-star quarterback, and he just happened to commit to, and is now fresh, already done a freshman, he's going into sophomore year, he's going to be the starter for the Tennessee Vols, and he came from, and there was a lot of talk, he had this deal, Spire Sports. Would it be similar to that type of a case? A Rico, not a Nico, a Rico?
It would be. It would be.
Okay. So
maybe even Chico, either one.
All right, so that's just a clip of the part that everyone's kind of been sharing on social media, but I did watch most of it for context. And they are playing with Nico's name. They are poking fun at it. They're trying to, draw a correlation between a Rico case and the case that Tennessee has going on in Nico's name, and then they go further into it. Obviously, that's very disrespectful. And, what are my feelings on it? Okay, well, obviously, this is going to be part of the game. Anytime that you are a high-level athlete or a high-level anything, if you're known, you're going to have haters, okay? You're going to have people who do clown stuff like this. And again, it just comes with the territory. But I will say this for all three of these idiots who, come on here and are playing with a young 18-year-old kid's name. At some point, you're going to be running into his family, and his father looks like a rather large and powerful man. So we'll see if y'all can get his name right once y'all come face to face with his parents. All right, so moving on, okay? A lot of y'all have asked about Joe Milton in the Senior Bowl and how he has performed. I didn't get to see all of his first day, but I did watch every second of the second day, and he looked decent on the second day, okay? On the first day, pretty much same thing from what I could see. Now, obviously, we know that Joe is one of those big, strong, powerful guys, and that scouts are going to fall in love with the upside that he has because he's got a very strong arm. Take a look at some of these numbers right here. All right, and this is from day one, okay? He had the longest pass in the air was 60 yards. We all know he could probably throw it a lot further than that in the air. And then he also had the fastest initial airspeed at 76.4 miles an hour. That's insane. I think that's similar to what Mike Vick had, okay? And they were saying that if Mike Vick was to throw a baseball, it would be well over, like triple digits or something like that. So obviously, we all know he's got a very strong arm. And then whenever you look at the RPMs, 735. Now, I don't know a whole lot about the RPM deal, but clearly if that's number one out of the quarterbacks that are participating at the Senior Bowl in both groups, then, he's doing something right in that standpoint. But we also got this tweet right here from Derek Brown, who is, kind of like an analyst for football. And he says, Joe Milton doing his best Josh Freeman today, all velocity, no accuracy, scatter shot. All right, so again, all of that is from day one. Again, he's got the big, powerful arm, but it sounds like he's still having some issues with his accuracy. Now, I did see him miss a couple of passes, on that first day. Again, I didn't see everything, but he wasn't missing them horribly. It was just kind of like a little bit low, kind of like low to the outside or kind of like high to the outside, but they weren't terrible. Now, I did watch him a lot in the second day, okay, and he looked to me pretty decent. Where he's kind of struggling at is if you look at a college football field, if you know where the hashes are there, okay, it's similar to where the numbers are on an NFL field, okay? From that point, the middle of the football field, anywhere from, I would say, about 20 to about 45 yards down the field, he's missing those passes, okay? And he's got to get that fixed. Now, again, everyone's going to think that they can fix him, and I'm no different. I would say that what he needs to do is try to anticipate where he's going to be going with the football a little bit earlier and just let it go with a little bit more touch, and he will be able to complete those passes. But he does, I think, kind of trust his arm a little bit too much, and he'll wait to that last second. And he can get it there, obviously. He's got the strongest arm in the entire draft, but it's not as accurate, I think, because he's having to fit it into a much tighter window at that point, instead of giving his wide receiver a little bit of room to kind of run and make the catch. The balls look a lot better whenever you do it that way. Instead of having to put it right on them, if you could put a little bit of touch, a little bit of air on it, and then let your wide receivers go and make plays, it looks like it's a much more accurate pass than what it actually ends up being. So I think that that's something for him to be working towards. And someone's going to take a chance on him, but we'll see what he does today. And the most important thing for Joe Milton is going to be how he performs in the actual Senior Bowl game. If he can get out of, missing these same passes that he's been missing throughout the week so far, then he can increase his draft stock. Coaches, GMs, scouts, some of these guys are going to be sitting him for the first time, and it's not good that he went out, in the first couple of days and didn't perform great, but also don't think that on the second day he performed as poorly as what some people are kind of letting on. So I think that he's going to end up being fine. He just has to finish strong, and obviously, what he does at the combine is going to make a big difference too. If he can test well there, if his numbers look good, then somebody, again, will take a chance on him. I don't know if he's really a second or third round pick at this point. I'd say he's probably on the cusp of like fourth round, just with how things are trending. But again, he still has the opportunity to step up if he can just finish really strong. So we'll be looking forward to that. And obviously, we're all cheering for Joe Milton. He was a big part of this team, of the transition for Nico. And then, obviously being a good backup player to Hendon Hooker and, it's being there for moral support, more or less, and being his best friend. They're still really close. So I know that Hendon will have some words of advice for Joe Milton, and I just hope that he will listen to it. Now, moving on to our last few notes of the day. Number one, we kind of talked about this earlier, okay? Is the staff going to have a junior day coming up here shortly? We thought that it would be this weekend, and it is going to be this weekend. We don't have a list quite yet of the players that will be attending our junior day this upcoming weekend, but as soon as we do get one, we'll bring it to this channel and we'll let y'all know all about it. Now, the last thing that we're going to be talking about today is Peyton Lewis will not be participating in spring practice for our Vols because he's going to have a minor surgery. Sounds like he's got some sort of a hernia deal, something like that. So he's going to miss all of spring for us. And obviously you feel bad for Peyton because you know that he's anxious to get out there on the football field with his new teammates. But I will say this, it might actually be a good thing for the entire roster because Peyton Lewis was probably going to come in and win that third running back spot. And we do like to rotate 3 running backs. Now we've got 2 other backs that have been here for some time. I think they're kind of on the outside looking in, but now that Peyton won't be participating in spring practice, they can kind of get some more reps, okay? And they can see themselves kind of fighting for that third running back spot at this point. So I think that we can retain them. That's the biggest point. That's my whole point of this. Does this help us retain more running backs? I absolutely think that it does. And it also got me to thinking, is this going to be something that coaches will want to see the players do a little bit more moving forward now that the transfer portal rules say that you can transfer at any point? I think that it could be, depending on the scheme and also obviously depending on who that player is. Now, for us on offense, we don't rotate a whole lot of guys, okay? We already talked about running backs. We think that it works there. Wide receivers, we're only probably going to be rotating 3 to 4 guys if we stick with what we've done over the past couple of seasons. But I think that there is a situation where maybe the coaching staff would try to rotate in some more guys, but really at the end of the day, it's probably not going to be the best idea to get those guys in late because if they're really good, they're going to have to get on the same page with the quarterback because of our system where there's just a whole lot of option routes. And, you have to know from the quarterback to the wide receiver what that route's going to be on the same page. The ball's got to be on time, all that good stuff, right? So that's where I think it will help out the young wide receivers coming in early for them to get an opportunity to play. And since we've got so many wide receivers this season, I think that it's okay if we lose 1 or 2. I don't want to. I would love to see everyone stay, but I think that we've got some room to lose 1 to 2 guys if need be. You've got to get in better talent everywhere. Now, at tight end, definitely going to be better for the guys to come in the spring because there's so much for them to learn, not only mentally, but, I think physically, they're going to have to get acclimated to playing versus SEC caliber competition. And the same thing can be said about the offensive line. I think that all of those guys have to come in early because the jump from high school to college, especially talking about the Power 2 conferences, it's a big one. So they need to get more acclimated to that. And I think, same thing there that I said about the wide receivers. If someone wins it out as a young guy, and if one of the upperclassmen ends up leaving us, of course, we don't want it to happen, but it could end up being the best thing for our roster and for our program. You're only as strong as your weakest link. Now, whenever you flip to the other side of the ball on defense, I think that if you're talking about on that defensive front, it's okay for guys to come in early because we've got so many people and we rotate pretty much everybody, right? All of those guys, if they can play, are going to get rotated in, and that actually would be very beneficial. So again, if you come in earlier, you're going to be able to get more acclimated to the system. That's the benefit, from that perspective. But at the same time, some guys might get pushed out of the door. I don't think that we'll see a whole lot of that happening with the way that we're rotating our defensive line. Now, at the linebacker position, I could kind of say the same thing there, right? Unless you've got an absolute and total stud, maybe you might want to say, hey, come in a little bit later because we want to be able to still rotate some guys, but we need some more depth. So I think that it could work out there because on defense, even though there is kind of a lot to learn as far as how to get lined up based off of the formation that the offense is given to you, that's something that you can learn just from looking at the playbook. You don't necessarily have to be out there on the field. And again, I think that linebacker is a position that translates well from high school to college to the NFL. All right, and the last position group is the secondary. I think that if you're talking about cornerbacks, they can come in late and they'll be just fine. Again, you probably don't want to be losing a lot of cornerbacks because we know that people can go down and there can be a huge drop off. We saw that this past season. Once Haddon went down, there was a gigantic drop off in not only the coverage down the field, but, it works hand in hand with that front. We didn't get as much pressure on the quarterback because the coverage wasn't as tight. So I think that cornerbacks, you can probably kind of get away with that if you've got a real blue chip guy coming in. If they're good enough to start, I think that they should. And I don't think that there's a whole lot that is going to change from coming in the spring versus coming in a little bit late for the corners. Now, star position and safety may be a little bit different because there's a lot for those guys to have to understand with what the offense is doing right in the passing game and then also in the running game. There's a lot for those guys to know. And I think that they probably need to come in as early as possible. And I don't really see a whole lot of opportunity for young guys, true freshmen to come in and start again, unless they're like a generational type of a talent. And even still, I would say just go ahead and bring them on in. And if one of the other guys or one of the upperclassmen decides to, leave, then we're going to be fine because we've got a generational talent coming in. So those are just my thoughts on it. Okay, y'all, please let me know y'all's down in the comment section. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. If you did, please give us a thumbs up. Make sure to click that notification bell. Also, please subscribe to the channel, share with your friends, family, other volunteer fans, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Thanks. Peace.